Hey guys, how you doing? Murph here, bringing you another product review. Today's review is going to be on the Womier K66 65% RGB backlit keyboard. This is a somewhat budget keyboard from Womier, and this keyboard is typically going to retail for between about $50 and $75, just depending on where you buy it from and the switch type that you purchase. I have the Gatoron black optical switches here, but it's also sold in the blue, brown, and red switch types. So you do have a decent amount of variety as far as switch types for whatever you're looking for. I know a lot of people like Gatoron, a lot don't. That's more of a preference type of thing. I typically do like Gatoron switches, and these black optical switches are pretty good. We'll talk about switch types more in a moment and do a sound test and talk about the RGB configuration and all of that. But we'll start off by talking about the design and build quality. Again, keep in mind that this is a $50 to $75 keyboard. So this isn't a budget keyboard, but it's not a premium product either. This is kind of a mid-range keyboard as far as price is concerned. So keep that in mind when we're talking about build quality and longevity and stuff like that. Now this keyboard's kind of unique because, as you can see, not only are the keys on top backlit, but there are also LEDs built around the outside of the base. So that is kind of what gives you that vibrant glow all around the outside of the case as well, which is a really cool feature, especially at this price point. It looks really good. It's very well done. As you can see, this is a pretty compact keyboard. Most of you who are watching this already know, but for those of you who maybe don't understand what a 65% keyboard is, or you're just starting to research keyboards and that type of thing, a 65% keyboard is essentially 65% of a full-size keyboard. So you are losing the number pad, which would typically be over here, and that's what makes a keyboard a TKL, or 10 keyless. And then from there, there are some manufacturers that will do a 70% keyboard, which typically has arrow keys, insert, delete, page up, page down, home, stuff like that. Basically everything but that number pad. And then you have what we have here, which is a 65% keyboard, which gets rid of basically page up, page down, home, and kind of moves those arrow keys into the actual part of the keyboard over here, just to kind of clean everything up and make it compact. And then you even have 60% keyboards, which actually get rid of dedicated arrow keys, and you're left essentially with the rest of the keyboard here. So if you're looking for a 65% keyboard, this is a pretty good option, especially at this price point. If you're looking for a little bit more of a budget-friendly keyboard, this might be the way to go. As far as build quality is concerned, the build quality itself, and by that I'm just specifically right now referring to how the keyboard feels and the actual parts that make up the case and the keycaps. It's pretty average. It's not great, it's not bad. The base is actually made up of 3 layers of acrylic, and then they kind of frosted the top here, which allows you to see through it. And the keycaps are not PBT, these are actually ABS keycaps. Still very durable, and they feel really nice as well. You can definitely feel a difference when you're holding this versus something a little bit maybe made of more of a durable plastic or something like that. There's definitely a quality difference, but it's really not that bad at all, especially at this price point. And while the keyboard itself doesn't feel as premium as some of those more expensive options, it does feel pretty durable. These keycaps are double shot ABS, feel great, should last you a while, and the base of the case feels very solid as well. There's no bend or flex that I can see. You can hear a little bit of creaking in there, which is mainly going to be because of that 3 layers that are basically just pinned together. So I would say the build quality is average at this price point, but you shouldn't feel weird about durability issues as far as like dropping something on the keyboard, or hitting it too hard, or maybe even worst case scenario dropping it off your desk or something like that. This does feel like it would withstand a little bit of abuse. So from a durability standpoint, you should be good to go there. As with other 65% keyboards, you do retain a little bit of that extra functionality of larger keyboards with the use of that FN key here, holding that down, and then you still have access to page up, page down, some of the color options, and you can see that all along the top here, you still have F1 through F12. So if you need those function keys, you can access those as well. On the back side here, you do have 4 rubber feet. I don't know how well you can see those with the backlight behind them. They kind of blend in because they're clear, but the rubber feet are pretty large. A lot of times you just get these small circular pads that don't do much, but these are pretty wide, so that is going to prevent some slipping along your desk or anything like that. One thing to note is there is no height adjustment on this keyboard, so what you see is what you get. It's pretty flat. I think there is technically a slight incline, maybe about 2% or so, but for all intents and purposes, this is a pretty flat keyboard. So if height adjustments and putting an incline to your keyboard is important to you, that may be a reason not to purchase this product, because without putting something under the backside of the keyboard, it's going to be relatively flat to type on. I'm not going to talk too much about the switches themselves. I'm assuming you already are familiar with Gatoron switches, and if you are, I do like the black switches that this one came in. Again, those are typically available in blue, brown, and red as well. So just depending on what you're looking for, linear versus tactile, if sound is an issue or anything like that. I am going to do a quick typing test for you guys so that you can see what these Gatoron black optical switches sound like. But I can tell you that if you're familiar with Gatoron switches, these perform exactly like you would expect. I actually really enjoy typing on this keyboard. Gatorons aren't my favorite switch type, but I do enjoy typing on them. Gatorons are not a bad choice whatsoever, especially in a keyboard of this price. You know, going with the Gatoron switch was probably a really good choice. So I'm going to do this in kind of 2 different tests. The first test is going to be how I would normally type or game if I were writing a report or just doing some light RPG first-person shooter type gaming. All right, and now I'll do a little bit of a harder typing test. Just as kind of a worst case scenario, I like to do this because a lot of people do type harder on their keyboard, or you know, a lot of people that kind of poke the keys when they type typically smack the keys a little harder. So just to kind of give you a worst case scenario as far as sound goes, I'll do that now. So that's what the Gatoron black switches sound like on this keyboard. Next, we'll talk about how to switch these color options and kind of just the RGB in general. But first, I'll show you how to actually change the stuff on here. As you would expect with a keyboard at this price point, there is no software option to switch the RGBs. So you're going to be locked into using the keys along the front here. But I do like what they did here because a lot of times the amount of buttons you have to press down and hold can be a little bit confusing, and especially with this extra set of LEDs in the base that you don't typically have on a lot of other keyboards, that has a real potential to be a problem and just having too many keys to press. But they did this really well because the way they designed this keyboard is if you hold down function and hit left control, that is dedicated to the base of the keyboard. That is how you're going to switch the RGB rotation. And the right control switches the RGB function for the top backlit keys. And if you want to adjust the color, function spacebar is all you hit. And then as you can see there, it lights up multiple different colors. You would just find the color that you want, say a green color, we'll hit S and everything turns green. One thing you can note about this keyboard is you're not going to, unfortunately, be able to dictate the top color from the bottom. There is a way to set them apart. For example, if you've got them here set up green on green, there is an RGB option, which you can see right there, I just did, an RGB color flow along the bottom, and then that will separate it from the top. So now you've got green on the top and kind of a color rotation along the bottom. One way you can match that is just going to the default of the top of the keyboard, which is done by holding Function and hitting space twice. When you do that, it just goes to a typical strobe on the top. But for the most part, let's say I wanted red backlight on the top and blue on the bottom. There's no real way to do that. You know, I could do, let's say I do orange on top, but there's no way to specifically get blue or green or something like that on the bottom. The best option for you would be do something like this. So the options are somewhat limited as far as what you can do, but overall it does make it easy because there's not a lot of keys to hit on this keyboard. FN and left control, bottom, FN right control, that controls the top, and then FN space is going to give you the option to select whatever color you want for your keyboard. So now that you know about the price point, the build quality, the RGB function, all of that, the question remains, should you get this keyboard? I would say if you're looking at a 65% keyboard and you are on a little bit of a budget, maybe in that $40 to $80 range, I would definitely consider this keyboard. The build quality is decent. It feels like it's going to last a while. The RGBs are very bright and vibrant. My only main complaint, I guess I have two main complaints. My first main complaint would be I wish there was a little bit more control over specific RGB functions. Again, like separating those top and bottom colors. Very minor complaint, but you know, if you're buying a keyboard like this, typically RGB is important to you at least a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the only big complaint I have that legitimately would affect my decision buying this keyboard is the fact that they didn't add any kind of height adjustment feet on the back of these. I'm not a big fan of typing on a flat keyboard. Some people might have height adjustments and leave it flat anyways. I'm not one of those people. I typically have it somewhere between about a 5 and 12 degree angle. So not having height adjustments would affect me purchasing this product. I don't know if I would make this my full-time keyboard or not. But if you're looking for something durable and something that's very bright and vibrant and has really nice LEDs and something more compact, such as a 65% keyboard, and you're trying not to break your overall budget for your build, then I would definitely take a look at this keyboard. I actually really like what they did with it, and it comes in several different switch types, so you're bound to find something that you like and you enjoy typing on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you found it useful or helpful at all, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you guys have any questions about this keyboard at all, make sure to drop them in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to get to as many of them as I can. That's gonna wrap up this keyboard review. I hope that everyone watching has a good rest of your day, and YouTube will catch you later.